We're now getting towards the end of March. It's about the third week in March and the weather's really got hot now in Thailand. And this is the first thunderstorm of many, I think, that's approaching us. We've got a lot of noise and wind at the moment. And that brings me on to a comment that was made on a recent video, which was about the electrics. And that was that Somchai did not see a surge protection device. And he explained how useful they can be in saving your electrical items for getting blown up by storm surges, electrical surges caused by storms. Even storms that are several miles away, I think, can cause a surge down the electricity lines and into your house, and then basically pop through everything and blow up your appliances. And he explained that he had had several televisions and various other things and some high-end equipment that had suffered terribly over the years, and he fitted a surge protection device, or SPD, and hey presto, he's not had a problem since. So he advised me to consider fitting one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit it in time to cope with this storm that's coming over, but I have been on Lazada, good old Lazada, and I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks and working out what I need and what I can actually fit. And so I've ended up buying myself a new consumer unit, a 4-way or a 2-way for 2 doubles. I've got an MCB to protect the surge protector in case of a prolonged overload, and also to enable the actual surge protector to be turned off effectively on this switch if I have to replace it. And in this box is the actual unit itself, and it's got various markings on it. I'm not an electrician, I'm not going to explain them all because I'll probably get it partly wrong, but I've gone for one that can cope with quite a high level of surge before it burns out, just in case we get a lightning strike close to a power line and it really does send a high voltage through, or high amperage. So I'm going to get this fitted. I've got myself some wire. There's a bit of a tale behind this, because when I was looking on interweb for directions about surge protection devices, they said it's recommended that you protect the surge protection device with an MCB, and that as long as the MCB is a 20 amp or less, you can use 2.5mm square area wire. But the earth coming out of this little beauty has got to be a minimum of 6mm squared, and that is because it needs to be able to take a high amount of current very, very quickly away from the circuit board and your house. So basically I went into Thai Wat Sadu and Mega Home and a couple of the other places, and of course they're geared up for selling to the trade pretty much wholesale, so I would have had to have bought 50 meters of 6mm wire, which would have cost me 1100 baht or something like that. But I went to a little sort of shop when I was on a cycle ride in Pattaya, and I went to a little shop I came across out in the country, and I just thought I'd have a look in there, and sure enough they had coils of various sizes of wire loose, and you can buy it by the meter. So I got 4 lengths, 4 meters of different coloured wires, so I can attempt to differentiate between live, neutral and earth. They didn't have my favourite colour for earth, being green, but never mind. You can't have everything in life, can you? And I thought I'd get it all in 6mm just to make sure that everything's wired in the best way possible to cope with any high level of amperage or voltage that goes through it. This consumer unit is a metal box type. I don't think I'll be bothered to get it out, actually, to be honest with you. You'll see it later. Yeah, it's metal, so I've obviously got to make sure that the earth from this is connected to the metal box, and then the earth from the metal box goes to the earth in the main consumer unit, which is then connected to the earthing rod. I wanted to get metal because I felt it would last longer, although the window at the front and the door at the front effectively is plastic, but I just thought it was a better bet probably than a plastic one, particularly if it could have high voltages flowing through it. Less likely to have a melting situation, I should think. Anyway, that's what I got. Yeah, and I want to show you the consumer unit in a bit more detail, the main one, because I really couldn't work out how everything was fixed in it. Let me take you in there now. The storm seems to have abated. There's no more noise and it doesn't seem to be coming any closer to us. Let me just get the decorations down. Right. This is a pre-configured consumer unit I've discovered. Unfortunately, the chap who fitted it didn't leave me with the box or the instructions or any of the labels that are designed to go onto it to tell you what the circuits relate to. Probably because he'd mixed the circuits up so much that there was a danger I would mislabel something. Anyway, what I discovered when I was in one of these big shops, I actually found this board and I took it out of the box and had a right old fiddle with it. Luckily no staff were wandering about to challenge me, but I discovered that this is not only pre-configured with the in-house breakers and RCBO and main switch, but it is not a DIN rail box. That means that I can't just buy a surge protection block and say take these two out because they're not being used for AC and stick it in there. I can't do that because it doesn't work. The way they're configured at the back is with like claws that go into a bar, not a and the fixings at the bottom are just plastic push-on fixings. So it's not a standard DIN rail box like I've just purchased. So I'm very glad that I had a good look at that in the shop before I went any further with buying anything, because I wasn't totally sure whether I should maybe take out one of these breakers here, because I reckon if we do have AC fitted we'll probably only have it in the main bedroom. We won't even bother in the second bedroom because that's hardly going to be used, as Suntray's daughter is actually not going to be living here soon. She's going to be going off to stay with her uncle for schooling purposes. So I was considering just ordering a DIN SPD and basically sticking it in there, and it wouldn't have worked. The other thing I've discovered, but I discovered this by my own experimenting, is that this cover here slides off that way, but there's a little tiny screw here which is very difficult to access because it's very close to the cover, and you have to get a little tiny screw thing in there and almost like a socket set, and just twist it by holding it with a pair of pliers, really, just to get it started. Underneath there are the connections for the live and neutral on the consumer unit side of this breaker, and I need to access that to put my live in, although I'll be adding my neutral to one of these down the side here, and my earth will go up on the top bar there. So I sussed it all out before I ordered anything, so I know what I've got to connect up, and I think I'm going to need to put the actual unit up here, but it's got to be offset to the left somewhere, and I'm going to have to use one of these push outs on the consumer unit to get the wires in. I prefer to use the small one here just because it's smaller, but I think I might end up having to use this one just because I don't really want to bring something in when it's got lots of wires almost butting up against it. It's just going to make it less easy to get the wires in, and I think this one's probably a better bet, but we'll see how it all sort of pans out when I hold the box up and see how the holes line up. So yes, going to get that done, and then I'll be fully protected. They obviously don't sell many of these, judging by that quality inspection pass stamp. 8th of August 2019 this was manufactured. Right, let's have a look at this thing. Maybe the reason it was so cheap was because they don't sell very many of them. So if I want to have an LED lit up to show it's live, then I can wire these two things in, but to be honest with you, I don't think I'll bother. I'll probably get it wrong and blow something up. Got some blanking plates there, I think, in case you don't need to use all the spaces. Some labels, which I won't be using. Got an instruction book in Thai. So that's not a lot of use, except I did notice one thing on this diagram here. When you've got a box which has got an RCBO in it, and this is the instructions for this type of box, not necessarily for the one that I've got, but it does show on the wiring that the live goes into the top of the RCBO, but the neutral from the meter goes to the earth bar, and the earth bar goes to the earthing rod. And then you take the neutral for the RCBO off the neutral bar. Sorry, off the earth bar it looks like. Sorry, yes, that's what I'm looking at here. That's the earth bar there, and the neutral bar's over there. So basically the RCBO is live into live and neutral into earth. And then the live and neutral at the bottom go to your appliances. That's not how mine's set up. I definitely haven't got an earth lead from my RCBO to the earthing bar, although when I looked in the shop there was one pre-fitted from the neutral to the earthing bar. And this is what somebody else mentioned in the comments as well. And I'm not exactly certain why the electrician has taken off the pre-configured neutral to earth lead. But he has, and the neutral from the meter goes into the RCBO, and the socket tester I've got suggests that everything works correctly, and the RCBO tests correctly as well. So I don't really understand what's going on there exactly, and whether it's something to do with the fact that the neutral line from the power here in this village doesn't actually go to earth anywhere. No idea what's going on there. I'm just having to trust that he's fitted it correctly. It all seems to work properly, and it trips out. It trips out when it's tested, or indeed when it's on the finest level of sensitivity and I plug the tester into a socket. So it definitely trips out. Anyway, that's all in tie, so I won't be using that exactly. I'll be using what I've seen on YouTube. I mean, if I'd been building a house something like 15 or 20 years ago, I wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff myself, and I wouldn't know half the stuff I know about how to construct for example, the boundary wall, or the structure of the house and the insulation and all this sort of stuff. I have to say, I'm very lucky to have been alive in this time when we've got YouTube telling us everything we need to know. Although obviously I am very cautious that I look at lots of different videos about everything that I look into, because if you've got someone on there who's not getting it right and you follow it, especially with, say, plumbing and electrics, it can be an absolute disaster. So that's a caveat, just in case anyone says, don't believe everything you see on YouTube. I don't, honestly. So this is the DIN rail box, and we have got our little earth blocks here, which are attached to the actual box itself, and we have got our neutral blocks here, which are not attached to the carcass. Now, some chai suggested that one of these is about 130 baht, dirt cheap, to protect yourself in the event of surges from whatever source. It's not just lightning strikes nearby, but it can be surges due to big pumps or other high use items being switched on up the line, and they send a surge of current towards you. So he said that was very, very good value, and I actually got this for less than 135 baht. That, the MCB and this box in total, including 2 lots of postage, cost me a smidgen over 400 baht, which is £10 in UK money. So I'm very, very happy with that, I have to say, because that's that to me is dirt cheap to give that sort of level of protection. Oh, and I should mention also that this wire was very reasonably priced. I worked out that if I bought a 50-metre roll of the wire, it was going to cost me about 22 or 23 baht a metre, and that is exactly what this has cost me. So this has cost me, what, 23 times 4? You can work that one out. Yeah, 92 baht, which is about 41 baht to the pound. So yeah, it's £2.20 for the wire. So it's about £12.50 for all of this kit, really. I would imagine in the UK, if you've got an electrician to do this, and you'd have to because of regulations, you'd get charged 150 quid easily. Now, I said before that this is a pre-configured board and it's not a DIN rail board, so I just want to see if I can show you. So I'm going to turn the power off. Let's turn everything off. And then let's just see if I can pull this one off the back here, just to show you off the end. I think how it went in the shop. This isn't coming out the back very easily. It's in very tight. Oh, there it is. Right, here we go. So you see it's got some sort of clip arrangement which clips into these holes at the back. I don't know if you can see that very clearly. It's not a DIN rail with a buzz bar. It's got this plastic clip at the end, which obviously the more you use it, the more likely it is to break. And in fact, it looks like it's got a stress line in it already. So I think if one of these breaks, I've got to actually go to this manufacturer or to a shop and specifically ask for this type of breaker. So that could be a problem finding new ones in due course, but hopefully none of them will break for many, many years. Anyway, I'm going to pop that back now. Right. That basically has got to go plastic clip first, I think. Plastic clip first, and then the metal contacts in the back push in. Oh, that's it. At least it's nice and tight anyway. So, and that, pop that wire back into its straight position. Okay, so I've got this box in after a bit of fuss and bother, working out the correct height for this door to open. So now I'm going to crack on with the wiring. I'll show it to you after I've finished, I think. Right then, I think I've completed this now. It wasn't particularly difficult, other than the wires are a little bit more difficult to deal with because they're thicker, so they don't bend very easily. Anyway, I think I've got all the wiring in correct positions. Maybe someone will make a comment and tell me not, but I've taken the live after the main on-off switch, or the main breaker. I've taken that up to the live of the MCB, and then out of the live into the live of the surge protection. I've taken a neutral off the bar because the neutral coming in or going out from the main meter goes directly to that bar anyway. And I've taken that to the other side of the MCB and connected it to the neutral there. These SPDs have got little green windows, and after they've suffered a very, very big surge, or after they've suffered several smaller ones, one of those windows or both of them may turn red, in which case you have to replace this unit. And I believe you can just buy these things. They just pull out and you can just push them back in, but if not, you buy a whole unit and rewire it in. The idea of the MCB is to give this a little bit of protection in the event of a very long overcurrent rather than a surge. Right, and then we've got our, going back to this, we've got our earth. So live and neutral go in here, and in the event that there's a surge, it allows the surge to pass down the earth wire. As I explained, I couldn't get green, so I've had to use light blue, but I've been consistent because then the earth goes from that bar there down into this box and onto the main bar right next to the large earth that goes to the ground spike. And I'm very pleased to say that that's a big wire. That's got to be at least a 10mm square, if not more than that, going to the earth spike, because this blue one is 6, and we're talking about the actual area of the wire rather than the size of the PVC sheath around it. So that's all done now. I've not got any choice about how I join these boxes. I've got to have a little bit of a gap so I can get the lid on this big one. And I don't have any grommets. I couldn't get any grommets, and I couldn't get any connectors. If I had connectors, it would have meant I would have had to have bought a little bit of pipe as well and have these boxes separated by probably about 6 inches because of the size of the connectors involved. So I decided to do the tie thing and just wrap them, just to give them protection from the edges of the knockouts. Not that they're going to move at all anyway, so in theory there's going to be no vibration or movement, so they're not going to chafe and wear away, but I've given them that extra bit of protection anyway. And as you can see in the gap, the only thing you'll see is a bit of tape. You can't even get your finger in there, so I know it's not to UK regulations or probably US regulations, but I'm sure that's well above Thai regulations. And I'm happy it's safe, and let's face it, it's above head height and no one's going to be fiddling around with these on a daily basis. And there's no babies or children really going to be in here to take tops off and fronts off and start messing about, so I'm going to go with it. Right, so now I can basically put the covers on and turn the switches on, see what happens. Right, well, we're on, we're back on, nothing's tripped, and we have actually got electric storms all around us, so I think this is a very timely installation of a surge protection device. Incidentally, as a sort of aside to this, the UK regulations say that you should have a run of only 0.5 metre from the power in and add on the earth wire to the earthing point, up to 1 metre if necessary, and the idea of that is that it will allow any surge to dissipate very, very quickly. Longer runs of wire obviously mean the surge is in the wires for longer, so there's a chance that it can do damage in other circuits. Anyway, that's why I've set the new box right next to the existing one, and I've tried to keep the wires as short as possible. In fact, I have used a little bit less than 1 metre of the blue wire, because I bought 2 lengths of it, 2 meters of it, just in case I needed some spare wire, and I've got that much over, so I've probably used 3/4 of a metre, and I've got that much of the power wire, the red wire as well, which is about 0.5 metre, so I'm probably slightly over, but I didn't really have a lot of choice. And at the end of the day, I'm not really working to UK regulations, I'm just doing the best job I can in the circumstances. So it is what it is. I probably could have got down to just about 1 metre if I'd been very mean with the earth wire and not left any sort of spare within the boxes for any sort of work that needs doing later on, where you just need to maybe trim the wire a bit, or indeed move it around and have some flexibility. Right, I decided to solve the gap issue, stop any large bugs getting into the fuse box, the consumer unit, by doing some sealing, and I've gone around all the edges of the large unit and on the top and between the boxes. So that will help protect that. And I haven't bothered with a small one because there are no knockouts from the rear, so any bugs that get behind there can't actually get into the box.